David Heurtel, former Quebec Liberal cabinet minister, in this week for Jean-François Lisée. He'll be back with us on his regular spot on Friday. David, I guess I'll start with the same story that we started with when I talked to Jim Manny earlier, because I don't think a lot of us saw this coming. This idea now that French universities have joined English universities in condemning the government's tuition hike. What do you think?
This is huge. This is major because I don't remember on an issue like this seeing the heads of Université de Montréal, Université de Sherbrooke, Université Laval in Quebec City, HEC Montréal, and Polytechnique all come together and saying this policy, these tuition hikes on foreign students that go to English-speaking universities will hurt us, will hurt every higher learning institution in Quebec. And what's also interesting in this letter is that it actually attacks both reasonings, because there's the reasoning, and it's never been really clear, and there have been even contradictions within the CAQ government on which is the dominating rationale for doing all of this. It's either for money or for the preservation of French. And it's to take that money and give it to the French universities. And what all five of these leaders are saying unanimously in the same letter is that both reasons actually hurt them, because the key for all universities in Quebec is using every single angle to make everybody attractive. So what makes McGill, Concordia, and Bishops attractive makes all the other universities attractive. And the language reason doesn't make any sense. And if you're going on financing, well, then let's sit down and all together find modern, innovative ways to solve the financing issue, which is much bigger and much more complicated than this made-up reason to find money from the English-speaking universities and give it to the French-speaking universities.
I feel like I still keep asking the same question here, which is that will anything actually come of all this? Will François Legault, will the government change their position on this? Or Pascal Derry, I suppose, is where we need to start.
Well, I don't think, Natasha, I think your first reflex was the right one. Because in any major file like language, everything starts and ends with Premier Legault.
Yeah.
This is a very centralized government, more so than the government I was part of under Philippe Couillard or any other previous Quebec government. Everything, unless it's a file that François Legault says specifically, I don't care about this, which is very rare actually, it will all start and end with him. And this one, you can bet that the line was given clearly by the Premier's office first, then it went to Robert's. Remember, Pascal Derry, and if I were in her shoes, I wouldn't feel too autonomous these days. I wouldn't feel like I'm a minister who can do whatever or can do much of anything that I want. Because think about this. This is her file, her policy. It was first announced by the Minister for Language. Roberge came out the day before talking about saving the French language and hearing too much French from university students in Montreal. And so, and then she gave the line, she did the press conference 2 weeks ago on Friday, and it didn't make any sense. She couldn't make heads or tails of it herself. She couldn't make it work rationally. So what I do think will happen, and will François Legault send out Pascal Derry to do a mea culpa and walk it back straightforwardly? No, because François Legault's ego will not allow that. He cannot be wrong. But what is happening right now, and the telltale sign here is, again, we're at basically the 2-week mark of this scandal, and you still have not been able to hear anything, a peep, from Éric Girard, finance minister and responsible for English-speaking Quebecers, and Fitzgibbon, who is Minister for the Economy and responsible for Montreal. And the reason why both titles in both cases are very important is that they are the pillars for the economy for the CAQ government. And ultimately, the line that PQ governments in the past and this ultranationalist CAQ government, these lines are always crossed. They get overeager, they get way too overconfident, and they cross a line that if it stays within, unfortunately, if it stays within just trampling on just the English community's rights, it's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
But which it has done in the past, and it's wrong. But if it's not only doing that, which is, as we said, I remember we spoke that Friday, and I said it's yet again another slap in the face of the English-speaking community and their institutions. But plus, this is hurting the entire Quebec economy, and that's what's really huge about these 5 heads of higher learning institutions in Quebec, these francophone universities are saying. They're saying doing this, François Legault, hurts Quebec, all of Quebec, hurts us, hurts our economy, hurts our attractiveness. And when these types of messages come out from leading universities, both the English ones and the French ones, get out also from the economic sector, which we know what's happening. When you see Toronto looking at us and saying, you know what, good for U of T, good for us, they're licking their chops again. Thank you, Quebec, for shooting yourselves in the foot. We will win on this because we're losing great students and therefore great thinkers and therefore great contributors to the economy because you have McGill, because you have Concordia, because you have Bishops, and because you have these great university systems. And so all of this will add up to get to a point where there will be an economic cost to this, which I think is already happening. And there's going to be ways for the Legault government to walk this back in a different way, but definitely not in a straightforward fashion. It's certainly not right away.
So, David, just in reference to Eric Girard, the missing minister in action, he was stopped today in a hallway and actually commented on this. And when I say commented, didn't really have anything to say except saying that from what he understands, Pascal Derry has been behind the scenes talking to McGill, talking to Concordia. Maybe that's this government's out. I don't know. I'm not sure, as you said, what comes of this, but there are discussions going on.
There would have to be, because now I've rarely seen on a file, especially during these last 5 years of the Legault administration, such unanimity in a sector. I mean, you're talking everybody. The only university that is supporting this is the one that's boss is the Quebec government, l'Université du Québec, which is led by Alexandre Cloutier, a former PQ cabinet minister. And so, except Université du Québec, which is UQAM, and all the Universités du Québec across the province, aside from the state-run university, all the other universities are saying no way. And on top of that, you have the economy, all the economic sectors saying, hey, hold on, you're hurting us, you're killing us. And again, if you're attacking Montreal, yes, it's going to hurt Bishops in a big way. You have the mayor of Sherbrooke who's saying this is going to kill us. And you have all the actors, including Valérie Plante, who rarely goes up frontal against François Legault, the political people, the mayors, and the economic powers that be are saying this makes no sense. So that's pretty much everybody, isn't it?
Yeah, well, listen, before we run out of time, I want to talk about another situation where people are getting together and saying, no, this doesn't work. So we've got 6 former premiers saying, Bill 15, Christian Dubé, your reform doesn't cut it. Have you ever seen anything like this before?
I've never seen the six living premiers. There's no other living premier, former premier, that isn't on this letter. 3 PQ, 3 Liberals, 2 former health ministers, Pauline Marois and Philippe Couillard, and 2 former doctors as well, Philippe Couillard and Pierre-Marc Johnson. And all of them are saying, look, this centralization is going to hurt all the teaching hospitals in Quebec. Because what makes the teaching hospitals so great, and there's a connection to universities, by the way, because all the teaching hospitals are linked to universities, and one of them is McGill. And so the idea here is because you have distinct management structures, you're able to tend to become more specialized, be more efficient, attract more talent by centralizing everything and having civil servants in cubicles in Quebec City manage everything for you and standardize everything, you're losing out on what makes teaching hospitals being able to perform and be leaders in their individual fields. And the example is the Montreal Institute of Cardiology. It's cited twice by the premiers. But I've never seen, again, by two different parties, different generations, that are saying, look, wake up. You are hitting a wall. And here goes again, François Legault with his ego saying, no, we're going to stay the course. But what's interesting is that Christian Dubé is saying, maybe we'll be able to find a way.
You know, at the end of all this, David, you know what other people said, and we got to wrap up, so we can't really go on this, but the idea that these 6 premiers, they have nothing really to tell the government. I mean, let's face it,
they blew it too.
You know what happened, right? Under Lucien Bouchard, under Philippe Couillard as well.
I get it, but there's still a, when you're out of politics, there's still a respect given to these people.
Fair enough.
And it sheds a light on one of the important problems with Bill 15.